Hello, everyone. This is a Double OG's podcast. So this is French OG with Jack Peach. So I've had the pleasure to have Jack come on the podcast to discuss a little bit about himself, about how he went viral, and on top of that, he's a Brit. So which there's a close relationship between us, French and Brit. So I decided this is a perfect time for giving the mic to you, Jack.
Yeah, we're
Tell us.
basically cousins. I'm French on my grandmother's side, so we're basically cousins of this.
Perfect. So actually, why don't you just even say your handle on X? Because you're mostly on X, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm basically predominantly on X. I've been on there for quite a few years now, but yeah, it's just Jack Peach, Dynastic Dating at Thinking Peach on X. Mainly talking about dating, how to find people, relationships in particular. That's kind of like my major focus, and as we'll probably get into, I do have a more realistic approach to that. So I think a lot of other people in my area. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where we go. But I go at Thinking Peach on X.
At Thinking Peach. All right. Okay, well, perfect. So I think I saw you before, right? And one day I was like seeing everybody. Like, there's a picture of you, your wife, and thankfully, like you hid the identity of the kid, and everybody started going there. I'm like, I mean, this guy's getting roasted. What's happening? I was just thinking, it's like, and people were saying, "Wow, can you be a dating coach because you're just going passport, bro?" And I was like, "Hey, look, if basically your ability to get the hardest people out there is based upon, skill, well, bloody hell, go and meet the fucking boss babe, 35+ year old you find on Bumble." Every day I go onto this fight zone. I should get the props, but they ain't no better. I'll tell you that right now. So, how did it feel to go viral with that picture, Jack?
Yeah, it's happened a couple of times now. The Twitter dynamic, which like has changed in the past few years, like obviously it's completely uncensored free speech, and like there's not going to be any cancellation. You're going to lose your account to basically say whatever you want, and that's allowed for this kind of race baiting, rage baiting style content to go viral. And really the reason I went viral is because I've got a picture of me and my wife is Asian. I've got my two kids, and it's basically feeding into that kind of undertone which is on Twitter at the moment, which by the way I'm actually fine with. Like I don't really care about that. Like
Mm.
stereotypes exist for a reason. You play with those stereotypes. There are guys that come to Asia, who are predominantly losers to try and get women because they can't get women where they come from. Like when I was living in Thailand, I lived next to another British guy who was literally just like that. He was like a 40, 50-year-old dude. He would go play tennis all day. He'd come back and drink beers in the evening. And he was married to this Thai woman who he met. Like she used to sell beads on the street in Pattaya, right? She's on the beach in Pattaya. So anyone who's been to Thailand will know that Pattaya is like the
Warzone.
that's like that's like the seedy part of Thailand, the reputation that you have there. And he met her, she was selling on the beach, and then he had kids with her and got married. It's a real stereotype. So like when people are saying this about me, it's like, well, I kind of get why they think that, but it's not actually true about who I am, right? So this is one of the interesting things, and that's why it doesn't bother me at all when people are saying all this stuff about me, about my wife, about like my kids a bit more, but like I do keep them covered and kind of like kept their faces covered just because I don't think that's fair on them. My wife, a bit
Yeah.
different. She's okay with it. But it's just like, it doesn't really bother me because for us, we literally just like, we find it funny. We're just like, man, like they think that, look at it. We look like going through the tweets, like laughing at them, like, what is this? Right? This is just funny, right? Like, and a big part of it is they're trying to get a reaction out of you, right? This is classic, style. It's like, what is the Twitter there for? What is the internet there for? Is to try and get responses out of people for a bit of fun. And after 3 days, it went viral for quite a while, to be fair. 3 or 4 days, it stopped. No one cares anymore. No one's tweeting me about it
Yeah.
until the next time I go viral with a picture of my wife, which will happen because like I'm playing into that.
It's like clockworks. Hello.
It's the second time it's happened in a month. This one went more viral, but the other one did 3.8 million views.
Yeah, no. Look, at the very least, as long as your wife is wife, right? Yeah, I see that
My
she
wife,
has
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
ring here.
Yeah, we're married.
So as long as she's okay with the Twitter fame, all good, right?
We live in Indonesia, right? We're not going to bump into any of these people.
Yeah. Well, you
It's a
never
bit
know.
different.
You never.
Well, you never know. To be fair, if you guys are willing, if any of you haters are there and you're going to be willing to book a flight and come out here and try and find me and track me down in Indonesia, fair play to you, man. That's some commitment. You should probably put that commitment to finding a girlfriend.
All right. So, considering, I mean, obviously, like you gone on to Asia. What's your view on passport broing? That the first bit, and the second is what led you to make that move?
Yeah. So there's obviously two different sides to this, right? The passport bro side I think is like, so there's two different sides to that. One is the problem that I have with passport bros, which you probably people watching this are surprised to hear, is that naturally there's a very transactional view of relationships. Like this is one of the things that came up through the responses that I was getting on Twitter is like a lot of people there, they're actually just showing that they have a transactional view towards relationships. That is the only reason a person could marry another person or a white guy could marry an Asian woman is because he's trying to buy his wife, or he can't get women, he's trying to buy sex, he can't get sex, or she's trying to buy a green card, all this kind of different things. And the problem with that kind of passport bro style is that again, that is true. All these things happen, right? It's like I'm not going to deny reality. All these things do go on. Like I say, I lived next door to a guy who basically did that. Felt sorry for his kid, in fact, because he was not invested at all in his kid. But anyway, his kid was half white, half English, living in Thailand, and didn't speak a word of English. Right? It's like it's pretty tragic, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that like that side of it, if I see that, I don't really respect that. Right? If people are going out there purposefully to basically have a transactional relationship with someone because they believe that relationships are inherently transactional. Now, the other side of that is if you are someone who, I mean, like how far do we go with the idea of passport bro, right? Like is a French guy in Britain, is that a passport bro? Is the guy who is just traveling around the world and while he's traveling around the world, he's making connections with the people he's meeting. When he's in South America, he's meeting a Russian girl. When he's in Asia, he's meeting a German. Then when he's in Poland, he's meeting a Vietnamese woman, right? Like we have to kind of define the concept of what actually is a passport bro. If you're a guy, the way I met my wife, and this is where we can kind of blend in the two questions you
Hmm.
asked, is like the way I met my wife is I just went traveling for 6 months around Asia. I was 22 when I went out there. I
Hmm.
just finished my degree and I was working at a bar as I talked about in Thread, and like I was partying a lot, and I was, you know, doing all the stuff that you do when you're at university and college, and I wasn't particularly fulfilled, to be quite honest. I felt like I was missing something in my life. I've always known ever since I was a young kid that I wanted to have a family. I wanted to get married. Like that's never been something that's been in doubt for me personally.
Hmm.
And I felt like my path that I was on was not going to lead me to that. So
Hmm.
when I was working in the bar and like it was a music venue, as we discussed in Leicester, if anybody
Hmm.
knows what that is, it's just a little independent music venue in Leicester. And these 40, 50-year-old guys would come 3 or 4 nights a week. They were all either divorced or they were single. They didn't see their kids very often or they didn't have kids. And like I just kind of could sense their misery. And I was like, man, I just don't want to be these guys because I feel like if I carry on what I'm doing now, I'm going to be those guys. And I didn't really know at that time how to break that habit. So what I decided to do was I took the money that I saved up at university and working and other things, and I invested it to go traveling. And I had no intention of staying here where I've been now for the past 8 years because I never came back.
Hmm.
I booked a
Yeah.
return flight. I was going to come back after 6 months. I told all my friends, yeah, I'm just going for 6 months and I'll be back. And I went traveling on my own. Now, when I went
Hmm.
traveling in that time, I spent, a month with an Australian, a ginger Australian girl while I was out there. I
Hmm.
spent, 2 weeks with a girl from Germany. I spent time with girls from all over because I was always open to the opportunity of finding someone. I wasn't
Yeah.
closed to that opportunity. And then one day in a hostel in Kuala Lumpur, that's when I met my wife. She was there. She was actually there with her sister. They were traveling. She just finished working in Australia. So she was working in Australia at the time, and they decided to go traveling during her holiday. And they're in the same hostel as me. And I started talking to them. We obviously hit it off. And then we, carried on messaging after we split up, after we spent about 3 or 4 days together. And then she invited me to say, hey, do you want to come to where I live and spend some time together. And I was solo traveling, and I was like, I liked her, and I was like, hey, why not? Like, what have I got to lose? The worst thing I get to lose is I spend a couple of nights with a girl, and then I end up like not wanting to go any further, and then I just travel around there instead of travel around where I'm planning anyway. Like there was basically no downside, but things went well and things progressed and we carried on building over time. And then we decided that we're going to try and make it work. And 8 years later, we're married, we have 2 kids, and we have a great life here. So there's always nuance to these topics, and there's always individual stories within it which add more context, right? The
It's all about
guy
the
that
context.
It's all about the context, right? Like I'm not someone I couldn't find a girl that I wanted to marry in England, right? I'll happily admit that at that time, right? Because why?
Because
Because I was
go on.
partying, right? I was partying, and the girls I was hanging out with are the girls who are out till 3 in the morning every Saturday. They're not, and I knew I didn't want to marry those women. When I changed
Man,
my habits and my environment through travel, in this case, I started coming into contact with very different people. Some of the women traveling were like that. A lot of the women traveling were not like that. My wife was obviously not like that. She comes from a very Christian background. I'm now a Christian. I wasn't a Christian when we met. Through my exposure to her and then her friends and her family, it eventually led me to God. And I wouldn't necessarily do the things I used to do, of sleeping around and things like that. Um, and I don't think that's necessarily the most fulfilling route, but I did it. So I also can't really, hate on other people for doing it when I did the same.
well, the thing
So
is, at least if you did it, at least you come from a position of knowledge. So same thing as say, for example, I've got like a master's level degree, right? And
yeah, me
I
too.
say most of the time, but there you go. Most of the time, studying is bullshit. But we come from a position of not because we don't have it, we have it, means that we even have more legitimacy in saying what we have to say.
Yeah, 100%. My degree is basically useless. It's opened some doors for me in my life here in Asia. Having a degree in Asia, like I could work in when I was in Thailand, I worked as a teacher. I couldn't do that without the degree. But basically, other than that, my degree has been worthless. It's not really, I don't do anything to do with my degree. I probably learned some skills and stuff that I kind of, internalized. But yeah, in general,
But you know what I like about your story is you let it flow, you let it go, you let it flow. In a sense of, you know what, you're like, okay, well, what's worse? It's maybe I'll just spend 2 nights and just never see her again. But if because you were already in the headspace of like, I want kids, I want a relationship. I'm sure the kids also in the background is saying, yay.
yeah,
But
I don't know if you
you
can
can
hear him. He's
hear it.
shouting outside. He's playing with his friends across the road.
All right, and this is how people just get into relationship naturally, right? Like the problem you have a lot of time in the West is you have so many content creators, so like dating has become professionalized to a point where you actually take away the human side of things. And I'm gonna loop back to what you said about transactional relationship. Of course, relationship are transactional, but the reason why relationship fail or even they fail to even start is because you make the transactional nature of the relationship too overt, and it's like people don't want to feel they're being bought or they're being sold. It's something that is kind of like, because if you take away the human aspect, then you take away the bonding process, because people think like you start looking at keeping a tally and you're like, I did this, you did that, you did this, I did that, this. It's not fun. It's like I mean,
There's a phrase I like to use, which is like whenever we're dealing with relationships, we're really dealing with a matter of the heart, right? And the problem with when we start using our head over matters of the heart, and that doesn't mean you should just take your head out of the equation, right? Is that
yeah.
you're logically going to take yourself away from what actually makes a relationship great, which is this intangible value of it. There's this when people talk about the connection, like what is a connection, right? It's one of those things that's so difficult to define, but everyone knows what it is when they feel it. What is love,
Exactly.
right? How can you define what love is? But you know when you feel it, right? And the problem when we get into all these super hyper logical breakdowns, this is one of the problems I have with the red pill kind of like mindset. Always I'd say like red pill is like 80% correct and 20% like horrendously wrong. And like part of the reasons they go like horrendously wrong is because it does just go super logical and completely disconnect from this other part of the human experience, which is you need this deep, meaningful connection. And there are actually like one of the things that I run through with my clients is there is actually a scientific way you can break that down of like how you can understand it, but the way you actually apply it and the way it becomes applied within each individual relationship and each individual connection, each individual date is completely different, right? There's certain things that always build a connection. It's okay. Does she feel sexually attracted to you? She has to feel sexually attracted to you. If not, you're dead on arrival,
Stars,
right?
right?
Like, yeah. And she also has to feel like secure with you. She has to feel like you're someone that she feels comfortable with, that she can trust and is not just out to use her for something or, get something
Mm.
from her, right? Now, the way you actually do that is going to be different from woman to woman. Some women want so much more sexual chemistry. Some women don't need as much. Some women prefer a guy who is much more secure and safe. And when we break it down into this dichotomy of like either you're the bad boy alpha who's getting laid, or you're the beta box guy who's just being used by women, like you're completely losing all the nuance. And it's the way these two things interplay. And if you're too high in either extreme, you're gonna struggle to find a meaningful relationship, a lasting relationship, like
Yeah.
full stop. Like you can get women if you're super high the sexual desire, you can get women, you're probably not going to be able to keep them because they don't trust you enough to stay with you. Vice versa, like you if you can build the security but you can't build any sexual tension, most women are going to overlook you, and some women are going to see you as a mark, unfortunately. The
Yeah.
the other bad women who have kind of the reverse of the red pill mindset for women, they do exist. Bad women are out there. Women are not all saints and angels.
I mean, look, you used to live in the country I'm living. We've seen it, and I'll just give you an example. You'll find girls that have like early bad experience, right? I was out last night and I met this. I was with a couple of girls, right? And I met this girl within that two couple of girls, and she just broken up with her boyfriend, who cheated, as far as she knows, as she says, 4 times on her, right? Moved out, whatever. 1 year, and then we're all having fun, and then the guy calls her, and she's like, and she was like, he's a piece of shit. And then she calls him back, right? I mean, he calls her back. She's been there on the phone with him all the rest of the evening. I was like, I was saying to her friend, like, what the fuck's wrong? Like, it's like, I was just a friend. I can't be. And what does it shows you, right? Like a girl like this that has basically been toxic out. That afterwards you'll have to be even more toxic than the previous guy, and this is setting up, especially in the West, a really negative feedback loop
Mhm.
for her in order to basically bond with someone, right? And then that's how you find her looking for the settled guy, the cleanup man type of stuff. So yeah, it's true, but at the end of the day, each and every person or girl or guy, come in at a different level of jadedness inside, and how do I know? For example, when a girl go on a dating app, I'm like, whoa, 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 you're too positive minded here. You've just recently joined, haven't you? I don't say it like that, obviously. And he never fails. He never fails. And the longer someone is on them streets, the harder it becomes for them to actually get out of them, because it creates a self-feeding negative loop. And basically, what you were saying about the female reverse, right, of the red pill, is I create a negative mindset for you to get the outcome you want, should you want a relationship.
Yeah,
So
it all
yeah,
comes
I
down to
totally
the process. It all comes down to your like I always like to say dating is naturally dejecting, right? You're gonna fail more than you succeed, full stop, at any stage, right? When if you're doing, dating game approaches, which is something I generally don't recommend. I don't think most guys can do that. I think you have to have a certain personality type to succeed at that, to be honest. Like if you're doing that, right, even if you're good at day game, right, and you're approaching women in the street, you're gonna what, maybe like 1 in 10 you get success with, maybe. I don't know, maybe some guys can do better than that, but still you're gonna fail with 9 if you want to, frame it in that way.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, so,
more
yeah.
than that success. Matches on a dating app, you can be great at getting matches. Even if you get a lot of matches, you can be the best messenger in the world. Not all of them are going to convert to dates, right?
No.
And this is if you're good, by the way, guys. If you're not, if
No.
you're not good at what you're doing, it gets really dejecting really quickly when you're not getting matches, and then you're seeing all these women on dating apps. You get one match a week, and then you don't know what you're doing with it, and you screw that up. It's like you just get this feeling of dejection which washes over you, but like you can't divorce from that process. Like you can't divorce yourself from the fact that you are going to fail more than you succeed, and like you have to have the right outcome independence and the right process and the right mentality and the right understanding of like, okay, this is how I find a relationship. And this is probably what we'll probably have a slightly different view, because I can see you're agreeing with what I'm saying so far. Is like you
Yeah.
have to have if you're looking for a relationship, you have to have a specific methodology that leads to that relationship. One of the problems that guys find when they kind of try and get help with this and they go online, they go, most of the dating help on there either falls into super trad, retarded, like just go to a church and like your pastor will introduce you to a woman or something stupid like that, which
Yeah.
just never happens. Or they go, it's the other end of the spectrum, because the way that online discourse works is we have to go to the extremes, right? It's very hard to
Yeah, yeah.
manage nuance. Is yeah, the red pill super pickup style. All women are just just manipulate them and game them, and they'll like you. Now, there's aspects of game which are not manipulation, of course. Like persuasiveness is persuasiveness, right? Like you got to be
Yeah,
persuasive.
exactly. Yeah.
But when it comes to actually finding a relationship, if you follow either of those two strategies, you're probably not going to find a relationship because they're not actually designed to find relationships. The latter one, the trad one is, but it's not based in reality.
Look,
So because
we
it's not
change it,
based
we
in
make the
reality,
world.
it's
Yeah.
not going to have sex. You have to blend the two of like, what is the dating world we live in? What is the state of women? What's the state of men? What is like dating apps are like my clients, 50% of my clients find their relationships through dating apps. Dating apps are great,
Yeah. You
if you
have
know how
to.
to
You
use
have
them.
to.
Yeah. 50% of my clients meet women in public at church or a small group or, like a
Yeah.
coffee shop or whatever. But like 50% are on dating apps. And if you learn how to use that with the right methodology in a way that keeps you from not being focused on those perceived failures, the times when it doesn't work out, you will find a relationship eventually. But the problem is, most people don't have the right methodology, they don't have the right skills, they are fed information online that panders to those extremes, that either reinforces experiences they have and makes it seem like all experiences are like that, or you see like the whatever podcast, right? You see all these guys, and you
Yeah,
suddenly
yeah.
all girls are like that when it's like, dude, that's Jeremy Kyle. If people don't know what's the American version, Jeremy Kyle's the UK
Jeremy.
version.
Hold on, hold on. Hold on. What's his name? I know. I've played Americano. He died recently.
Yeah,
Jerry, what's
Jerry
his name?
Springer, right? Jerry
Jerry
Springer,
Springer.
right?
There we
Is
go. There we go. Yeah.
whatever podcast is the 2025 version of Jerry Springer. It's just in the past we realized that that was a dramatized version of the world, whereas now people are like, women are like that. I'm sorry, God, what is happening here?
And you see, I don't think that we're that far apart. And I'll tell you why. We're not, I don't think we're
No,
that
we're
far
not.
apart. First of all, it's like, look. First of all, dating apps, whether you like it or not, it's here to stay. This is the way where you're most likely going to find someone. I hate to say that. I hate to say that because I was, I mean, as far as I know, I don't have a personality disorder, but I was a day game guy or a night game guy. And it's like, for me, I'm much more of a in real life person because, I
Yeah,
like
me
the
too.
vibe. Yeah, you don't seem to me like just a guy behind this little dating app whatsoever. No, you don't. But the reality is, even like, for example, I was out last night in London. It was quiet as fuck on a Friday. Like, if I want to see a lot of people, I have to go on Thursday because Thursday is a new Friday, right? So already, like, since the post-COVID world, that has created, that's created that thing, right? And the main problem you have, right, and you touched upon it on the previous one, is you need to have a positive mindset. And here, for example, what day game and night game has taught me is not to take things as personally, because it's not only based on you. There's about our lives, there's about the right place, the right environment. That girl that I know that basically had her boyfriend, like ex-boyfriend and everything, at a different time, I would have closed every fucking night, but because of that, I didn't. But why? It's like, I'm just some random guy she met on the streets, literally and metaphorically, and and she been with that guy for God knows what, 2 years, lived with him. I mean, come on, realistically,
Yeah, yeah.
unless she was primed for it, that was not going to happen. As well, on top of that, she was not from the most recommended place in London. If you see which area I'm talking about.
There's quite a few of them, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, no, but the thing is, I tend to love and attract them. So what can I say? Anyway, and that tells you, for example, when you go on a dating app and stuff, right? Even if you have like top notch pictures, and you have average text game, you're faced with different things. Last night as well, the reason why I went out was because I was supposed to see a girl that said he gonna hate me type of stuff, and she's people did a surprise party for her birthday. It was in like 3 days, and she was like, can we meet tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. I was with my friends, so I didn't really care, So, but the point being is, it's like you can take it personally or not, it's about also finding the energy. Really, as you get more accustomed to people, you understand energy better. And she was very warm. She was very, like everything lined up. There was no bullshit. So it's like I was more willing to give the benefit of the doubt. But if I feel the energy is wrong, I'm like, mm-mm. And you'll have, again, you were talking about the extreme. On the one extreme, you'll have people that will just take everything personally.
Yeah.
which is somehow the how do you say, the contradiction was inside the red pill. They say female are solipsistic. Okay, fine. Then why do you take everything so personally if basically something negative happens to you? You see what I'm saying? It's more about her than it's about you. You know? So
Almost
there's
always.
yeah, exactly. So once you actually get, you're talking about outcome independence. Once you actually get the fact that you're like, okay, well, uh, it's going to be mostly defeating, and appreciating that it's two people coming from two different sides of life that is not been curated by, let's say, a social environment like it used to be in the past, or like, for example, the church or the families and everything. It's a maelstrom of factors that need to blend in, right? And once you blend in those factors, hopefully it works on the short end, but you have to play on momentum, because in order for you in order for you to build a bond with someone that you don't know of, it's like you've got to play, like, don't try to play hard to get whatever. Like, she's talking to 5 or 10 guys, you're talking to maybe one, two, or three girls. Like, you're playing yourself. Just basically work in good faith. And
Yep.
if she feels
Always.
that exactly, and if you feel that that person's starting with bad faith, cut it off, because she's just telling you who she is. The main issue people have is that and you touched on it as well. Bad faith manifests itself in its outcome. You select people out by being of bad faith that were of good faith, because you don't attract them, but you're going to attract the people of bad faith, confirming your confirmation bias and thinking that you're smarter than you are, when you're not, because you've already self-selected the outcome you didn't want to, but you technically want to believe in.
Yeah, you create your own reality. It's like you're talking about intentionality essentially. It's like the intentions behind your actions. Like what are you trying to achieve? And like the way that you behave will be fundamentally framed in whatever framing you have there. If you're like, okay, what am I trying to achieve from this? Like, if I believe that women are always going to be out to get me or they're not really acting in good faith, then I'm going to interpret her actions in that light. When she does cancel last minute, like we were supposed to do this last week, right? Like just for the listeners
Yeah,
at home, we
yeah,
were supposed to do this last week. I had a cold, and I was just like, you know what? I hate to do it. I did it last minute because I just come down with the night before. I was like, look, man, I'm really sorry. I just had to cancel this because like I can't do it this week. Can we do it next week? Right? Like, because like, I do want to do this. It's just now's not the right time because I'm sick. Right. And you were like, yeah, sure. No worries. Great. Now, if you're a guy and a girl cancels on you last minute and you're always reading bad intentions from women, you're going to go, she's canceling because she isn't interested or because like she's screwing another guy, or you're going to basically interpret her intentions through your lens. Whereas in reality, sometimes things do come up at work. Sometimes, she's going on a date with you. She wants to look her best. She wants to feel her best. And if she's feeling a little bit under the weather, you know what? She probably does want to wait until she feels a bit better to put a better image forward, especially on a first date. Now, again, you have to read the intentionality behind that. Like when I messaged you, I counter offered. I straight away said, look, can we do it at this time? I'm telling you that it's good intentions behind my actions. But you could still be like, actually, I think he's just BSing, right? Like you could have done that.
no,
Like that would have been a
that's
fair
the same thing as
interpretation.
with girl.
Yeah,
Same thing as with
exactly.
girls. Say, for example, that girl that's like, look, can we meet tomorrow? I'm really sorry and everything. And because of the context, again, we're saying like everything before was good, right? And funny enough, to look back to what you were saying on last week when we were supposed to record, that week again, I had a girl that flaked last minute, because that's also another thing. Guys also be like, you know what, girls flake so much these days that it's hard, based upon others, to really give the benefit of the doubt to them, to women. And generally, when I do, I always get punished for it. So people don't anymore, right? Fortunately enough, you're not a woman.
Yeah, it
But
depends where you are. My experience with that is like there's certain places like London, New York, certain big cities where girls flake all the time. But if you're in other areas, actually, I find with my clients it's actually rare that girls flake. If you're in
yeah,
Texas, you're in like even in Austin, which is a bit more hip these days, my clients rarely have women that flake. My clients in New York, dude, 1 in 3 girls flakes. And it's just that's the environment you're in, and you have to understand that and accept that reality. I'm having this discussion with one of my clients at the moment. He's like an investment banker. He's super, he's in shape. He's in New York as an investment banker. He's doing fine in life, right? And he's had this problem where he's like, why do these girls keep flaking? Like, and partly it's due to his messaging style. He's not building enough connection that
yeah,
they're kind of saying how invested is this guy, so they decide against coming. But partly there is just a degree, like you're in New York. Unfortunately, my experience of working with plenty of guys in New York is that cultural environment, like girls just do flake more, and you kind of just have to be okay and accept that. And again, not don't take it personally. Don't get too invested in a girl you've matched on a dating app. Like you're strangers. You haven't even met in person. You are a stranger. Like, yes, she said, oh, I have a little bit of interest in you. Yes, you've said you've had a little bit of interest in her. Yeah, you've messaged back and forth, but you're strangers, you know? Like you've got to understand that context. You've also got to understand how that relates to how she treats you. If you put off some kind of energy that makes her have a little bit of friction or a little bit of doubt about maybe your intentions, right? Stay on topic. She feels like, I'm not sure of the intentions of this guy actually. Something read into it. He's a stranger. There's enough friction there that I'm going to actually bow out on this. Right. And you
Mhm.
have to bear that in mind and you have to understand that. Like, you have to, a lot of guys, they don't see things, they don't see dating from the perspective of women. Right. And understandably so. Right. You're looking at it from your perspective. But obviously, the way that you actually frame yourself, the way that you communicate, the way you have to have this mental model and this understanding of what's she actually looking for, how's she going to interpret, right? Through your communication, how is she going to read that? Right? You can understand what you're trying to get across, but sometimes miscommunication. Like I've been with my wife 8 years, right? We've been married 5 years. Like we
Good luck.
miscommunicate, you know,
Exactly, right?
we miscommunicate and we know each other better than like she knows me better than anyone else does in the world, and I know her better than anyone else does in the world. Sometimes we misunderstand what we're saying because we're tired or we're busy, or especially messaging. You know, you're at the gym, she messages you, you just finished a set, you just kind of shoot a message back, you misinterpret, oh, what's going on here, right? And that's even my wife, right? From time to time.
Yeah.
Imagine with
And
a
on top of
girl
that,
that you've never met, you know nothing about. She knows nothing about you, and she's just going. She's reading all these little signals, these little cues, these things that are like, I'm actually gonna decide not to go ahead and go on this date with this guy, even though I agreed to it. There's enough friction there, and
and you know the
especially
difference
there's a
between you
there's a
and your
threat.
wife?
What's
Yeah,
that?
and
Sorry.
you know that the difference between you and your wife and them in New York is there's a culture gap as well
Oh,
on
yeah,
top
for
of that.
sure. Yeah,
Like my parents, they're not from the same country, right? You know, I'm not white. I mean, no, it's not the sun. There's a tanning salon here, guys. You know, like some people say, I was like, no, I'm not a tanning salon. So it's you have also this layer of complexity. It's and also so there's and what was so funny about last week as well was then after that thing, what I did was I went out and I got fucking pissed as fuck, right? And I had the girl leaving in the morning, and I was like still having a headache. And when you text me and you said, "Shit, I've got," like I can't do it. I was like, "Thank you, man, thank you." So sometimes you have to, and this is not
yeah,
woo, but sometimes you have to thank the universe, almost listening to you. Let's do it for next week because it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be
yeah. It's
better.
gonna be better. What's your drink of choice, by the way, French?
Whew, it really depends. Like if I'm looking at wasting, no, I'm not wasting. I'm not putting on too much fat. I'm a gin and tonic, same line tonic. Watch out, or vodka soda lime.
Fresh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Otherwise, if otherwise I'll have like a Sauvignon Blanc, New Zealand, not the French. Just saying.
Not very patriotic. Yeah.
Not very patriotic. And cocktails are more like picante. So what about you?
Yeah, no, I basically only drink scotch nowadays. Like you got a bunch of different scotches up there, but I don't get drunk.
Yeah,
Right, I'm a
yeah.
Christian. I don't get drunk, but I still drink. But
I
scotch, I
don't
like a
drink
beer
anymore.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
and as we were talking
Scotch is
about
good.
hangovers before we started, the last time I did get drunk, yeah, like I'm officially old, bro. It's don't feel like I did when I left England. Let's put it that way.
There you go. There you go. Well, look, if you're ever in London, you can just basically hit me up and we'll have a
Yeah,
good
let's do it.
good drink. Let's do it, and you'll remember maybe the drinks that I said. So who knows, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I will. I'm good at that. So I want to pick up on something you just mentioned a minute ago as well, because you did pick up on the different cultural context, obviously, between me and my wife. And like, this is the other thing that I think is lost on people when they're thinking about passport broing or and things like that, is that like it actually, unless you are going for the hyper transactional, I'm going to take a woman out the village because, and like she's living in poverty and she's young and like reasonably attractive. And I'm going to, marry her and have kids with her because like she can get something from me that her life is going to completely change. Like, actually, people misunderstand like how hard it is to actually make a relationship from different, even countries, let alone different cultures work. Like, in Europe, like there's differences. We were talking about before that we started, like the differences between French and British. The way that the French and the Brits communicate is like polar opposites. We're both Northern Europe. We're literally next to each other, right? We're Northern
Yeah,
European. Like it's like it'd be like going from like New Jersey to New York in America, right?
yeah,
It's that close, but the cultural differences are huge. Let alone like with if you're gonna go, sometimes I people when they say, "Oh, I'm just gonna go travel to like Ukraine and pick up a woman or go to Asia," and I'm just like, what you've got to understand is you think that's easy, there's going to be the levels of difficulty and the levels of like complexity that actually adds to your relationship. Like multiracial relationships get divorced at a higher rate than the same racial multi-ethnicity because there's additional challenges and additional pressures that come with that. I'm well aware of that. I'm in a relationship like that. Every relationship is different, but it also takes like you have to be a naturally more calm and a better communicator to actually make an interracial relationship work. Like you have to be someone who is more open-minded, who's willing to make compromises and understand. Like I did something that none of your listeners will have to do when we got married. I had to go in front of my wife's family and like ask permission in front of a group of elders to get married. And my wife's not particularly traditional, right?
yeah.
She's westernized and modern. She lived in Australia and she's a lecturer, like
Mm.
was a lecturer before we had kids. Like she's pretty westernized, right? And pretty modern, but she still comes from this family background. And I had to do that in a
Mhm.
different language. I had to do it in a way that presented myself as like, what's this white guy trying to do? Marry our daughter, of our like of our community. Like to be able to do that, if you actually want to have like, as I say, like a genuine loving relationship, which is like two people coming through life and living life together and building, a loving marriage, like it's hard. Don't think that like guys who do that are actually taking the easy way out. They actually have different challenges and different complexities, right? A relationship in just between two Brits in the UK is going to have different challenges, different pressures. Like the work culture is very different. Like the attitude towards family is going to be different. That's going to be a difficulty for your marriage. Like I'm not saying one is worse or one is harder or one is easier. It's just we need to not have this reductionist approach to dating and relationships. Like if you want to have a healthy, loving relationship which leads to family, you have to have a much more deep understanding of what's going on and the understanding that every relationship is unique as well. Two people, there's again, same thing we're talking about, there's underlying dynamics that hold true. Communication is always going to be important, but the way you guys communicate, how you communicate, the manner of which you build that trust and that connection is going to be different from relationship to relationship. And that's like fine, like either way.
And you mentioned one thing, which is ethnical, racial, even potentially even religious perspective. But even if you look, because we're talking about what qualifies as passport bro, right? What qualifies as passport bro? It is more, it's to do more with the economics side of the picture, which is, let's say you're a first world country, US, UK, France, Germany, whatever, going into a third world country, right? Or frontier market, as I like to call them. Um, and it's benefit and using that arbitrage where you can actually get, you're more attractive because of your financial leverage, but also as a white guy, if you're Southeast Asia or even Asia, there's a racial benefit to it, because a lot of time women from that part find white men as a status symbol outside of even the money side of things. And
Yep.
on top of that, even if you're within to the US, where there's a lot of Asians, you'll find that white guys like Asian almost at the same rate within the US, for example, than white women. Asians are actually not such a necessarily a cope for people that cannot get them, but it's actually a preference.
Yeah.
If you're a passport bro, it
Family
happens that you also
values,
have an added benefit, which
relationship
is your
values.
financial delta, positive delta towards you. So just wanted to put that. But outside of
Yeah, you've
this,
also got to remember
think about it this way, right?
the
When you
negative
sleep around a lot
stereotypes
with girls and
towards them
everything,
as well.
your social status, and I'm talking social status not so much as number of followers, but more like your social class,
Yeah, yeah,
comes into play way more, right? Your nationality comes to play way more, because there's for relationship speaking, there's assortative making. It's like, what are your common reference points? Thinking about it this way, right? Like, if I'm just talking my personal experience being a Frenchman in London, right? Most of the French people that I know in London stay with French people, or at the very least, continental people. Why? because there's very much of this little islander mentality within the UK, for
Yeah, yeah.
example. Nothing against that. I am one of the very few pure French guy that I know that hangs around with Brits a lot. Why? And this is not to brag, but how many times have I heard, on top of that, Parisian, of all play people, the most fucking cuntish people out there. It's like, you're the coolest French guy I've ever known. But why is that? It's because I collected so many reference points from so many different places that I've been to, the US, the UK, etc., etc., that people were like, I even basically got people to open up when I say, hey man, if I was British, I'd vote Brexit. And to be honest, I was happy that Britain voted Brexit, and that people thought I was taking the piss. Are you being sarcastic? I'm like, no, seriously. You know the funny thing about Brits, for example? Like for me, Frenchmen, I just never could understand sarcasm. But that's one way of you doing things, right? And because sometimes I was so honest, like as a French guy, there was like, "What's your angle here? What's your angle?" And I'm like, "I've got none." And it was like a complete like reality shift. And it took them a little while for them to actually believe me, but because they're not used to dealing with French people. And that in itself, this is just to show you, right? This is just with people that are guys. But if you're with a woman, add on to that the polarity between the sexes, like the rules. For example, British people, when it comes to dating, they like to kind of be very aloof, very like indirect, very. And it's like if you're a continental or Mediterranean guy, you're very direct, right? And the woman may think that it's overbearing, that it's a bit too much, too intense, unless she has her preference towards this type of guy, it's going to work against you. So things are actually defined on a much higher level before you even get there. And it's like you have to appreciate that it's not because you embody this with you, what's your life story, that it's really about you as a person. You're a product of your environment. They're a product of their environment. Your communication is just the externality of it. Once those two things comes together, you were saying about the friction, it stops. And that's fine.
Yeah,
It doesn't
sometimes
make
if
you
things
less
don't work out
worthy
for
as
the
a
right
person.
reasons. Yeah, sometimes things don't work out for the right reasons. I had a client
You're on
recently.
mute. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, yeah. Can you hear me now? No, I don't know what's going
There
on.
we are. Here we are.
Oh,
Don't
you got
worry. I'll
me?
be able to.
This
Yeah, I
one?
can hear you.
Okay,
All
yeah,
good?
sorry about that. We can just edit that out.
No, it's fine. I'll cut this out so you don't have to worry
Yeah, yeah,
about it.
yeah. I don't know what happened there. Like I did mute it, but then I was unmuted and something about muting it happened. Yeah. Apologies. I muted my son had to stop playing with his friends and he wasn't so happy about that.
No worries.
Yeah.
I understand. So, do you remember what you were wanting to bounce on? It was
No,
about
but
the
one thing
one.
I do have something else to go back on, like going back to the kind of like everything that goes into it, right? Like the other thing you got to remember is like there are still like there's also negative stereotypes that come with like an Asian woman marrying a white guy. Like in within the culture that has negatives, right? It's like it's not like it's all super positive there. It's like they also have the impression, oh, she's just a gold digger, right? Or she's just trying to get a visa. That's
Yeah,
pervasive here as well. So it's really, really important to know that there's, again, it's the uniqueness of each relationship, the uniqueness of everything that happens within that. And you have to see that for what it is, right? And people like the right time, the right place, the right vibe, the right person will make it work. But you've just got to put yourself in position to meet those people and be open to it and be willing to take risks and to like, when I first met my wife, I traveled to see her. Like then that was a big risk. I mean, I didn't see it that way. I was like, well, nothing to lose. But in reality, that was me saying, hey, through my actions, communicating, I'm invested in this relationship and I'm going to treat this like it's something serious from the beginning. And that's a big part of why the relationship work. And I think a lot of guys and a lot of girls as well, by the way, like they try to keep things too safe. They try to keep things too too detached too early, and you're communicating to that person always that you're not actually that interested in them, you're not that
exactly.
invested in it, so it makes it so much harder for the relationship to work. Now, yeah, you're gonna probably open up yourself to probably a few more potential like bad situations by being over forward, but in the end, if you're looking to find a relationship, you're better off going in with that more commitment in the beginning and then going, okay, with the person it works out with, that's a person who was also serious. And then if it doesn't work out with someone and you're being quite serious, didn't work out for the right reasons. One of my clients recently, he went on 7 dates with a girl, going super well. He's a guy who's never dated before, right? He's like a software engineer in America, not have much luck with women. He's a stereotypical nerdy dude, right? We'd never been on a date before, and we got to get dates, got to change his communication style. And he ended up going on 7 dates with this girl. And like it was going really well. They really liked spending time with each other. But in the end, they decided not to go on because there was kind of a significant value misalignment of like, really like, he was a Catholic and she was a Christian. And that can be overworked, that can be overcome. But for them in their dynamic, they couldn't overcome that. And then when they parted ways, the relationship didn't work for the right reasons. But they both
Mhm.
went into it earnestly from the beginning of like, we want to try and make this work. And then when you do part, it's like, well, I did everything I could. We did everything we could to make this work. It just didn't. Right. And that
Yeah.
intentionality behind it is so, so important because it fuses all your interactions with a
Is
different
that
energy
good
and a different
faith?
feeling.
Is that good faith, right? And it's like it's the same thing. And a lot of time, girls will be like, "I don't want to give the wrong message," but at the end of the day, like actually, I'll tell you one thing that is killing people getting into a relationship. This travel whoring frenzy. Like every bitch is like, sorry, I'm like for me when I say well, I can be a bit ruthless with my
That's all good. Don't
language.
worry about
Pardon my French,
it.
but that's a very good excuse every time. But like every fucking bitch basically travels every fucking like 2 weeks, going there, going there, going there. Like you cannot build any type of momentum with someone like that, right? You can't.
100%.
And it's like and I remember I was talking to a woman, like I don't know if you ever came across my Bumble chats. I mean, people know me for that a lot, but you save
Maybe
yourself
I
a
have,
few.
but yeah, yeah.
And I asked this girl, right? I was like, don't you think that don't you think that traveling a lot and focusing on work is actually hampering your love life? So where's that stupid question? I'm like, bloody hell, And it's like, like
Not like a mirror,
And it's like, how about your attitude here? Add attitude to it. But the point is, it's like you have to be with people that actually want, like, it's not because they say the dating was intentional. I don't give a fuck whether they say the dating was intentional or not.
It's
What I
their
want to
action.
see is exactly the actions. I don't give a fuck about your list of demands. I don't give a fuck about all what you're saying. Is like, why is your like, how warm are you towards me? Or and basically how warm am I towards you, so that you believe my intention. How like how available you make yourself be. You know, how little games you want to play. And what I mean by little games, right? Like, what I find also a very problem a lot of time women have that want something serious is that they separate lust and love. It's not either or, it's and.
Yep.
The
Agreed.
problem is because a lot of them basically they hoard out when they were younger, making that distinction. I don't want a relationship, I just want to have fun. And then when they want a relationship, they just go in opposite sides of the spectrum, going back to what you're saying, right? And it's like you need to put oil in the engine. It's like, otherwise you're gonna push it with your fucking arms and it's not gonna work. And it's the same thing with guys. It's like it makes it. Yes, it's a little bit, and that's also another problem, right? Because you say about outcome independence. You have to show outcome independence, and technically aloofness is about outcome independence because you're kind of like, yeah, whatever. However, it is a degree under which you do it. If you're too aloof, you're not interested. But if you're too I want this, I want this, I want that, then it kind of gives the needy vibe. So you see, again, it's fine
There's a middle
tuning.
ground.
And sorry,
Yeah, it's a middle ground. And it comes again down to that intentionality. If you're trying to be aloof, then there's the problem, right? Whereas if you're acting at that moment like a little bit like frustrated with how they're acting, and therefore you pull away naturally because you're like, come on, like what are you doing here? And you just like, all right, if you're gonna be like that, well, I'm just gonna kind of disengage a little bit. Then it comes from the right place because you're actually responding to the way that she's behaving and like out of like a healthy respect for yourself, right? It's about self-respect and respecting yourself within the dating process. Whereas if you're like, this is where people get wrong, they're lost in the nuance. They're like, oh, you have to be like mysterious and aloof or dating. So they create this mask. But the problem is all that does is it makes you seem like you're putting on a mask and you're trying to be something you're not. And that doesn't communicate what you're really looking to communicate as well. And often that aloofness as well can be a defense mechanism. It can be
yeah,
like acting that way so to keep you out. Actually, I don't want to let
it's an
you in.
avoidant.
It's an avoidance pattern, yeah, and there's
Yeah.
truth to that. It's
No,
definitely an
I know. I joke it. I joke at it because a lot of time it's scope for people that are not really into them. It's a bit like the woman, like say for example, right? You know how every woman say, "My ex was a narcissist." Well,
yeah,
if I
yeah, yeah.
think he's a narcissist, right? Like it's like the same thing. Oh, he's an avoidant. Most likely he's not that into you, you know. And guys do the same, right? Oh, she's an avoidant. It becomes a cope. But there are people, especially people with abandonment issues, will basically self-protect irrespective of the person. Like I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying that it's
Overused.
not.
It's like trauma, right? Everything's a trauma response, right? And it's like that really belittles the people who were literally abused by their parents, by
I
the
know,
way, to
right?
say that, like, your parents were a little bit like disengaged every so often. That was trauma. No, no, it wasn't. That's cool.
Oh, you have ADHD.
It's
No,
cool
you're
life.
just too much on social media.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Like
again,
I get you.
it's yes. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of bullshit around, but like again, it's all about the nuance. It's just about you appreciating something. Like, because people will create narrative for themselves. Everything now, there's no real definition upon things these days. Everything is reframed, 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 and that's why it's so fuzzy outside. So it's like a mist, and you need to have like that type of bullshit, you know. Otherwise, you're just going to get lost in it, and you're not even going to be able to actually manage your life the right way because you'll be led by the wrong set of beliefs.
Yeah, for sure. You got to get that internal framing and there's those internal metrics. And I had this conversation recently with a client. He's like, for him, he was like for me, it was just like, I don't know why this is blowing your mind, but he's like super into his fitness, right? He's been working
Yeah,
with a fitness coach. He's like, he's got a six pack. He's ripped. He's really in shape. And he's just got a girlfriend, right? And they've been dating. They've been in a relationship now, probably about a month dating. I don't know, 2 or 3 months, something like that. And since he's in the relationship, I was saying, look, like now you're in a relationship, like he's always, whenever they're eating, he's trying to eat like in keeping with his exercise program. I'm like, look, man, I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do here. It's up to you, it's your values, but you also have to come down in your relationship, your life. You also have to reassess like what's your priority here? Is your priority really gonna be like keeping your six pack? Or is your priority like I'm actually just going to enjoy the time with my girlfriend more and eat the right things? And it's not like, because again, there's this wrong framing of like, oh, you're changing for her, right? You don't change yourself for her, right? Like, but it's not. You're not changing it for her. You're changing it for you and the relationship because you value her, you value this relationship, you want to make this relationship work, and therefore your framing of what you do in your life should change, right? Because you're in a different stage and you want different things. And now what again, this is he messaged me the next day. He was like, man, I went out for a meal with my girlfriend and it was so nice just to order what I wanted rather than one. I felt so much more relaxed. I enjoyed myself more. We had a great time. And it's like, yeah, because like, and he had this wrong mental model from online discourse of like, oh, I shouldn't, now I'm in a relationship, I shouldn't just give up on this fitness and like I shouldn't change for a woman. But it's not necessarily, sometimes like you do want to do that, right? You have, it has to be an internal decision that you've made, but you have to make this distinction between what's good for her and what's good for the relationship.
and what's good
Because
for you as well.
yeah, because what's good in the relationship, sometimes what's going to be good for the relationship is going to be what's good for you,
Exactly.
right? Like I go out with my friends and go out for a couple of beers and I chat with them and spend just time with them as a dad and a husband. You know what? I come back and I feel refreshed. I'm in a good mood. I feel like I can be a better husband. I can be a better father because I did that selfish thing. My wife had to put my kid to bed on her own. Oh, terrible, right? But like vice versa, sometimes my wife needs some time. She needs some energy. She needs like some refreshment. And I'll take my son for a day. I'll let her go. She can do whatever she wants. She get a salon, she get a massage. She has a whole day without I'm worrying about childcare because I take my son. And that's not like that's good for the relationship. She then feels more appreciative. She feels appreciated. She feels like she's refreshed to be a mom again. In both these situations, both of them, what we're actually doing is what's good for the relationship, right? It's not
Hmm.
about what's good for me. It's not about what's good for her. It's about what's good for the relationship. Because sometimes what's good for the relationship is what's good for her. Sometimes what's good for the relationship is what's good for me. And you have to be able to make that distinction. It's not this false dichotomy of like, you have to be like this, always do everything for you in the relationship and not give anything to her, and vice versa. It can't be
Yeah.
that she takes everything and never gives anything to you. It's like both are going to be unhealthy in the long run. And I just think so many people lose sight of that wisdom. It's like even my client, he was like, man, nobody's ever articulated that way. I was like, man, have you not really nobody saying that? Or maybe he's just not heard it, but like people just don't have this. Like for me, that's like common sense.
I was gonna say this.
You know
I
what
was
I
gonna
mean? Like
say this. I was
But
gonna say this. It's like, common sense is not so common these days.
yeah,
No, 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 but there you go. There you go. It's about how do you frame that for yourself. It's like it's the same thing. Everything like for what I find is like a lot of time also what people miss out is like sometimes they confuse what's the difference between ego, self-respect, self-esteem, and
yeah,
everything. And it's like, look, there's a point where self-respect, for example, start to have diminishing return in the sense that everything is about you, but you forget about the other person. It's not a zero sum game all the fucking time. If a woman or if a guy makes everything a zero sum game, then it's gonna he's gonna reach ground zero in the relationship.
yep,
That's It's about being empathetic enough to actually understand where the other person is coming from, but it's also about being wise enough to understand when you need to basically be not that empathetic toward the other person and focus on you. And it's an art. It's an art, and it's something that
no.
you
And
learn over
sometimes you're
time.
going to go the wrong way.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes you're going to go too far one way, sometimes the other.
And going back to what you were saying about the intention, is that yeah, an action can be negative. You're not going to be right. You're not going to buy 100 all the time, right? But if the person know at the very least on that action that you had the right intention, that will alleviate it. That will alleviate it. However, if you basically keep on doing the wrong action, wrong action, the wrong action, your intention will just basically, the value that you will put on the intention of the other person will decrease because the amount of action that you do that are negative, I mean, not wrong, will overshadow the intention. So it's also about bearing that in mind. You can't just say, "Oh, I didn't mean it," all the time. And it also depends not only about the number of action, but the severity of the action and how wrong you were. You know what? I just fell on that guy's dick, but I didn't mean to. It's not gonna work
Yeah,
out like that.
100%. It's all communication, right? It's what is that communicating, right? If you're always doing the same mistake, even though you're not intending to it, you're communicating that this isn't a mistake, it's a pattern of behavior,
Or
right? And
you
if you're
don't.
not or you don't care about how it affects the other person, right? So these are all the things you're unconsciously communicating. Like everything within a relationship is some kind of communication, right? And if you're not aware of that, or if she makes you aware of it and you dismiss it as well, which is another thing that a lot of guys oh, I don't feel appreciated. Oh, but I did X, Y, Z for you. Well, you may have done those things, but there's something going on which is making her feel that way, right? She doesn't feel appreciated. She's not just saying that, unless she is, some people are just manipulative, right? But
Yeah.
hopefully, if you're in a good relationship with a woman, that's not the case. Like, hopefully, you've done the vetting properly. Um, but like, if she's saying that, she's telling you there's something in your actions, something in your behaviors, which is making her feel that way. And you have to listen to that and take that on board. It doesn't make you less of a man. In fact, it makes you more of a man because you see a problem, you fix it. That's what men do. Men lead. Leadership. What is leadership? Leadership is identifying problems and coming up with solutions, right? And
But
if she's saying that that's a problem, and you're going, no, it's not because of X, Y, Z, you're just completely dismissing her. Like it's like, but guys do it all the time.
but there's a nuance here that I'll add is she feels underappreciated. That's true. But what's gonna happen is that generally the reason why she feels underappreciated or not appreciated, whatever, is not necessarily the reason why she says she is.
Yes, that's true.
So it's up to you to actually read between the lines. So not only you have to be a great communicator as basic, as instead of being defensive when she says, "Oh, I'm being unappreciated," ask her also, what makes you feel unappreciated, type of stuff.
Yeah, and
She'll
sometimes
give
it will
you a
take a
response.
10-minute conversation to figure it out.
Yeah, sometimes you'll just think, well, it's not technically exactly what she says, but it's about the undercurrent of what she said in that thing that she didn't know what to verbalize. Because what you'll tend to find is, and sorry, this may be my misogynistic inkling, but a lot of time women don't have the self awareness enough to actually know how to communicate or verbalize it. Because it takes a higher level of consciousness to know your weakness or to know even how to explain things that are affecting you negatively. Most of the time, when I talk to clients, I've never had someone basically bringing that problem into such a small, quick phrase or small, even men. So it's like, bear in mind that it's the same for the other person. They're not necessarily as aware as you want them to be. And guess what? You, as well as a guy, also to a lesser degree, I find you are less aware of who you are. And that's why you need a person like me or like you to kind of like call you out when there. Because another thing which is great about what you said about the guy with the gym guy with his eating habits and everything is the reason why you get the result you have that you're not satisfied with your life, or the reason why you view yourself in such a way, is because you listen too much to yourself. Therefore, it's like you're feeding into a loop of, I don't say necessarily negativity, but not getting the outcome that you want because you listen too much to yourself. And it's like, if you weren't there to actually say, look, you know what, just how about you framed it this way, right? How about you actually try and, like, for example, say, oh, I don't want to go on this one. I'm not so sure about her, and it's like, and then you don't go on dates, and then you complain that you never get on dates, right? But then at the same time, when you have the opportunity to go on a date, but because you're not sold on as much, then you don't actually allow the other person to give you, to make a sales pitch, or even though it's not a sales pitch, it's technically is, right?
There's a degree of that to it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also another thing is, it's about, and I don't know how much expectation management you do with your clients, but there's also a degree of that as well. Like, we ain't gonna bang all tens and Olivia Duns and, get in relationship with, Margot Robbie, there's a certain degree of what we can actually, apply for.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it earlier, assortive mating. It's definitely true. Like, it's like you get within your range. What makes up that range can be different. Like, sometimes you'll see a guy and he's with this beautiful woman. You're like, whoa, how did he get her? And then you talk to her and you're, all right. That's why she couldn't find a better guy. It's like, it's just like there's all these different things that go into it, right? So, like, getting kind of fixated on one aspect, or like just only focusing on specific traits, and sometimes as well, like going back into the not necessarily knowing what you want. A big part of like figuring out, like, getting my success with my clients is helping them actually articulate what they do want, because sometimes what you think you want is not what you want, right? So
Mhm.
sometimes a guy thinks they want this really, really beautiful woman. They want this woman who's beautiful and going to be respected by everyone. Then you really get down into it, and it's like, actually, they're doing that because that's what they want other people to think.
Yeah,
Right? The
ego.
reason they want to be with that is not when we actually get into it and realize actually what you want is this, this, and this, right? So, and suddenly it's like, yeah, you're right. Actually, I do want that, and that epiphany moment allows them to have, just that alone can completely change their dating life. Let alone of all the skills and everything they've got. Suddenly, they know what they're looking for, and that clarity is so important. It's so hard to get clarity when you're not pouring into someone, like whether it is, and hopefully that person has wisdom and can give you good insights and good, they're not trying to lead you to a specific, like, one of the things I'm very cautious of with my clients, and I always tell them this: I'm not trying to lead you into a conclusion here. Like, I'm trying to give you different insights that can help you
Yeah,
inform your own decision, right? Maybe you haven't thought about it this way, and like ultimately it's up to you, right? It's your life, this is your dating life, your marriage, your relationship. I'm gonna have nothing to do with this woman. Like, I don't really care that much, but I do care about you, and I do care about you wanting to find the right thing and you having the right outcome, but it has to be right for you. I'm not going to try and make you into me or someone else or another of my clients. And again, I think some guys have the wrong attitude with that. Other dating coaches that I know, it's like it's this way or no way, and it's like, well, great, that works for you, but different people have different makeup, different people have different skills. Like, I have different ways that I meet women, and one thing I've noticed is like certain guys, they'll always find one works better for them, for whatever reason, and that partly that is just a temperament.
you're exactly right. A few things I think are really important to point out on this, right? Which is, it's not about what you think is better for the guy. It's about you giving the perspective necessary for him to make a choice, because you don't want to lead him towards a one outcome, right? You are there to call him out on his bullshit. You
Oh
are
yeah,
there to basically giving him the view as to basically what his options are. And also, it's about giving him clarity. I'll give you an example of a guy that I know, right? He very successful businessman, like, mid 40s, whatever, right? Coming out of a divorce. And now he's like, you know what, like, I'm at the top of my money thing, I'm in good shape, etc., etc. I want to deal with, I fucking hate boss babe. I want to deal with young girls, hot girls, feminine girls, blah 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 blah. All right. Anyway, but he's very into the feminine masculine. Like, he really loves feminine energy. He's very repulsed by masculine energy. And and he's got a girl right now, not as young, and that has a kid, but he has kids of his as well, right? So
yeah,
technically
yeah.
they both already have kids, they both already have a history, right? But she is the best experience he's ever had, right? And you just think, how am I, like, Like, and he's been with her for like 7, 8 months, right? But how am I still want that young hot piece of ass type of shit, right? Even though he has nothing he can't say against her, right? The only thing you think is maybe she's trying to trap me, and I'm like, mate, you overcomplicate your life. You're going on the streets. You're gonna find a lot of time monetized young Gen Z. You're gonna find boss babes thinking that basically their role as a manager in the department of princesses and drawings it basically has any meaning to their life, and that's their personality. You're gonna find you know people that have been into like really wrecked relationship that have bad face, like literally, you don't know what the streets are like, and you've got a diamond in a rough. I mean, I said to him like, go on there, but I'm telling you already what I'm already telling you. You most likely not gonna find as good a person, and it's hard for people to even realize that. And I'm like, do it, but don't say I didn't tell you so, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's classic phrase in English. A bird in the a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. You know, like you can
I
say.
don't know this one.
So it's the
A
idea that
bad.
like if you've got a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. If you've
Okay.
caught and hunt a bird and you've got that, that is worth more than the two potential birds you're going to catch because you might not catch. Right?
Yeah,
That's the idea, and this is
exactly. And
so important for dating. Like because the grass is always greener. There's always going to be a prettier woman. There's always going to be a younger woman. Not understanding that, it's like shiny object syndrome. You've got the worst kind of shiny object syndrome. You're just like going for the new, the shiny thing rather than valuing what you have. And there's always going to be flaws to your woman. There's always going to be problems. No one's perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. And knowing you have something good and pouring into that and investing into that is probably for most people going to give them a better life than like as long as you're not you're being going into it with eyes open, you are vetting character and values and not just the way they look. Like a good relationship is gonna be like a good relationship, even if it's just good, is gonna be so much better than most other things in your life, let alone a great relationship. And by the way, great relationships are made. You can find a good relationship, you make a great relationship. It's not just you pick this person, it's done. There's all the
it's all
work that
cut and
goes
play.
into that. Yeah, there's so much more.
And even if you look at just the relationship you have with your friends as a guy, right? Even you look at it's like sometimes there's a bit of ups and downs. But you look at it and you look at the people that you've been friends with 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and it's like whenever you go back and reach out to them, like that feeling of good stuff about, it's amazing. Same thing with a woman. Obviously about good character, etc., etc., etc. But the shiny object syndrome. And now he's come back to me, right? The guy, he said, you know what? I think you're right. Like, the thing is, you care more about feminine energy. It's like, and he said to me, like, I know, like, he's aware that a lot of time is also about ego validation from others because he'd be like, just like they want to see, I'm really big balls and I've got like this young hot chick like Billy Belichick. I say, hey, look where is Billy Belichick now? Just know,
Be careful what you wish for.
be careful what you wish for. There's people have like for example this idea of knowing your lane, right? People have a bit of hard time, like it's like, yeah, you can do better than what's in your lane, but there comes a cost with it. It's it's about appreciating what's important, and you mentioned that earlier, priorities. What do you seek first in someone, right? Otherwise you're always ending up yourself with the wrong setup. You'll be like, oh yeah, I liked him because, or I liked her because she was good looking, or she had like that type of, she was my type of stuff. Yeah, no, but that's good. Obviously, you want to be sexually attracted, but at the same time, it's like, can she be relied upon? It's, and also another thing. I remember there was a client of mine, right? Sometimes it's good if you're a guy that, let's say, is not social that much, to go with someone that is not as social, because the requirement on the communication side is not going to be as high from them. Therefore, your lack of communication skills are not going to be as bad as an handicap for that, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes you even have guys. We always we joke about the woman be like, you know what? I didn't really think so much of you when you were young because you were just not it. But now I gotta have kids and whatnot, so you know what you'll do. Like a lot of girls will function like that, but you have guys that function like that too. Yeah, she was a bit awkward. She was a bit nice, but like, like, well, now I need a relationship, and you know what? She's not that bad, that bad a bird, and you have that as well. But there's also the cleanup girl, which is the one that picks up after a guy that's been whoring all night, all day. I mean, I had a client last night. What I arranged was like he had a date early with a girl, and I said like, hey, look, now you bring that other girl straight back to yours. And it's like, yeah, but like, man, how do I handle the first one? Yeah, it's just kind of like a meet and greet, blah blah blah. You just basically keep her warm, and that one is already into you. Bring her straight back to yours. And it's like girls do that for guys. Why don't you do that for you? Sorry, Western dating standards, not the
Yeah,
most
yeah, yeah.
recommended, but it's kind of like if people do that against you, you can do that against them. Not necessarily. Like the thing is, I say this is because he doesn't want something serious. But the point being is,
Yeah, yeah.
depending upon what you want, so it's about can you provide that, right? So, say for example, what would you say is the main request from your clients yourself?
Well,
Relationship
my
guarantee.
clients are, yeah, we're all looking for relationships. So I don't really help guys who are looking for that. Like I have a look, if you're both okay with it, if she's knows what she's getting into and you know what you're getting into it, like morally is probably okay, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like I am a Christian, it's not what I do, it's not what I recommend to my clients. But like again, as I said at the beginning, I did it when I was,
yeah,
when
yeah,
I
yeah.
was in my 20s. So it's not like my, my late teens or early 20s. So but what they're all looking for is we're looking for relationships generally. I help guys who are looking to find something serious, whether they have had flings and done all that kind of life and they kind of like found it difficult to create the right mental model with dating of like, oh, this is how I used to date. But then if I communicate like that when I'm looking for a relationship, it doesn't work out. Right. That's a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
guys I work with. And then it's guys who for whatever reason just haven't had much success with women, full stop, as
Mhm.
well, who are they're kind of the two main categories that of my clients that fall into. And it's all about the way I always frame it is like, look, I can't help you find the right woman. I can't guarantee you're going to find the right woman. It's all about giving you the skills and the strategy. So as long as you've got a strategy that you understand, okay, this is how I'm going to get dates, this is how I'm going to meet women, and these are the skills that actually lead me to connect and actually build and have the right intentionality, like has obviously been what we've been talking about a lot, and have that intentionality behind it, then it just comes a matter of just following the process. And obviously, as we set that up and build it out, we identify different bottlenecks, we identify different problems, different things that they have, and things that work better for them, et cetera, et cetera. But it's all about setting up a system and a strategy and giving them the skills to find a relationship. Like it's a whole methodology. I'll never like teach a guy like the best skip like the best thing to do on a date to close a date and bring her back to yours. That's not the goal,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like so there's a slightly different way that you'll act within the date. Again, like we were talking about at the beginning, the principles stay the same. You have to build sexual chemistry, you have to use physical touch, you have to flirt, you have to build, that feeling of security and that trust and make her feel like she really like enjoys spending time with you. But then it's like the close is very different. The close is about like building to the next stage, right? And moving things through the dating process towards a relationship. So that's all I do. Now, if guys during that process, like not all my clients are Christian, if they sleep, they meet a girl and have 3 dates and they sleep together and then decide not to continue, right? Fair play. As long as you're both okay with that, I don't judge morally. Like I wouldn't do it. My Christian clients, I won't recommend them to do it with. But if that's you, that's fine. As long as you're not just a guy who's looking primarily only to get laid and not looking for something serious, then we're probably not a good fit. It's
Yeah,
be
but
better work
because the
on
thing is also another thing is, and it goes back to what you're saying. Sometimes the guys don't even know what the fuck they want.
yeah.
So sometimes you think
Sometimes I
that maybe you may have a client that think that I want a relationship, and then when it comes closer, you're like, oh, you know what? Oh, no, no, no. I mean, I want a relationship,
yeah, it
and
happens.
that must have yeah, that must happen, right? Sometimes,
Yeah, yeah,
but that and in a way, it makes it even simpler for you because technically, it's like, okay, well, look, you want like good faith, as long as basically both people are on the same wavelength, good type of stuff, and strategy and skills to get to that outcome, right? That's it. Like, and technically, like you have a segment, you have a market segment, you operate within that same market segment, and as well, the client that comes to you are already pre-shaped to fall within the funnel you're going to give them, not only for them but also for the girl that come into them, right? So
yeah, for
that's
sure.
yeah. Whereas like for me, it's a bit different. Where like like look, you want to be toxic, I can basically tell you and teach you to be toxic. You want to be like the good guy and get that relationship and everything. Like if you want, if you want to just be the fun guy, the playboy, but it really depends, and it's like it's not really to judge someone where they're coming from. It goes back to what you're saying, but it's about where can you help the best the people? It's a marketplace, and before, to be honest, I don't think it was a bad thing. Most people would be like the clients that you seek. You see what I'm saying? Most people will
Yeah,
be
yeah,
looking at something that is um, wholesome, purposeful, especially in the West now. It's kind of like, but I think as time goes along, things will revert back. It's kind of like the pendulum. It goes from one
yeah.
one extreme to
Agreed.
the next.
I think it's already swinging in that
So yeah,
direction.
but
I think we're at the bottom, as it were, of the kind of the sleeping around, non-intentional situationship style thing. I think we're
yeah,
here and we're just beginning. We're just beginning the descent. Like, and I think it's going to swing back in that direction. Like, you can already see the
you have the
trends
same
online
feeling. Yeah,
and things. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no,
So,
same,
and I think it's going to be better
same
for
way.
people,
Well,
full
anyway, I
stop,
don't.
when things do go that way.
Yeah, no, I honestly do think that it's better for people mental health and people just satisfaction in life. You can hear a lot of people say that like, oh, the older, like, women over 40 basically are the happiest, without a child and everything, are the happiest of them all. I'm not buying it. Not because I've got anything against them. I'm just speaking to them on Bumble, and it's not fun. I'll tell you that right now. It's not fun. But yeah,
They're the best
you
at
know,
lying to the questionnaire.
they're the best at lying at questionnaires. There you go. But anyway, so any closing thoughts? Don't want to take you too much of your time, Jack.
Yeah, no, no. I just appreciate you reaching out and giving me the chance to be on here and talk. It's been good to get to know you and have a chat with you as well, and get to know you a bit better as well. I always enjoy these connections that we take. And if anybody does want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Thinking Peach on Twitter. And I also have a free guide to connecting with women in, if you are looking for a relationship, that you can get in my bio as well. But yeah, if you just give me a follow, like that's where all my content is nowadays. It's all just primarily on Twitter.
Okay, perfect. Well, look, guys, for me, I'm with 007 on this community. I'll just put a link down below. So if you want to join and want to listen a bit more, there's a VSL for you to know what it's about. So you can either get coaching from me or 007. And also my website where you have every articles on Substack, and you can look at other type of material such as Jack, so that you get a little bit more of info of who we are. But Jack, thanks very much for joining on the podcast. I know we didn't really speak before that much, so I appreciate the good faith in me. I mean, I think with me, for me personally, I really enjoyed that chat. I thought it was really, really
Yeah, I think it's
insightful. And
good.
what? It was almost like a blind date, like no homo.
Yeah, exactly. Can tell we're both dating coaches, right? The date went
I
well.
know, right? Yeah, exactly. So it was a real pleasure, and and maybe I'll see you soon on going viral again.
Yeah, like, hopefully, let's hope. Like, I appreciate it. It made me, yeah, made me a bit of money, so it's all good.
Hey, that's the spirit. That's the spirit. Well, anyway, on this, guys, I wish you a good day, and I'll speak to you. I'll see you soon.
Take care.